Hello students, in today's class we'll be studying about the structure of DNA. In the last class we studied the double helical structure given by Watson and Crick, which states that the phosphate group and the pentose sugar lies towards the backbone and the base pair is present towards the interior of the helix. Each spiral, each turn of the helix is measuring 34 angstrom and it consists of around 10 base pairs. The diameter of the helix is 20 angstrom and the distance between the base pairs present in the helix is 3.4 angstrom. Now we move on to Chargaff's rule. Erwin Chargaff measured the quantity of bases in DNA and noted that the amount of adenine is equal to thymine. So purine are always equal to pyrimidines. This was what he concluded. So he found that quantitatively adenine quantity is equal to that of thymine. Cytosine quantity is equal to that of guanine, or we can also write it as adenine plus guanine is equal to thymine plus cytosine, or adenine plus cytosine is equal to guanine plus thymine. Ratio of adenine plus thymine and cytosine plus guanine usually differs. In case of yeast, it will be around 1.79. Usually it should be 1, but in case of yeast, which is an exceptional case, it varies to 1.79. While in bacteriophage, it is 1.86, and in mycobacterium it comes near about 0.4. Now we move on to what is central dogma, very commonly asked question. So central dogma is the flow of genetic information from DNA to protein. The process of the flow of genetic information from DNA to protein is known as central dogma. So the flow of information takes place from DNA to RNA and then to protein. In DNA, replication occurs and then the information is transferred to messenger RNA by the process of transcription, and the messenger RNA helps in the formation of protein by the process of translation. This entire technique, this entire process is known as central dogma. There are 5 types of DNA based on the helical shape, like it can be right-handed, it can be left-handed helix. So based on it, there are 5 types of DNA: aDNA, bDNA, cDNA, ddNA and zDNA. This is a diagram showing aDNA, bDNA, cDNA, ddNA and zDNA. You can see in the first 4 types of DNA, it is a right-handed helix. So it is a right-handed double helix in the first 4 cases, while in the last one, the zDNA, it's a left-handed helix. This is the major difference between the 5 structure. The rest of the differences are as follows. Base pair turn in case of aDNA is base pair per turn of helix is 11 in case of aDNA, 10 in case of bDNA and 9.33 in case of cDNA, 8 in case of ddNA and 12 in case of zDNA. The tilt of the base pair is 20.2 degree in case of aDNA, 6.3 degree in case of bDNA, minus 7.8 degree in case of cDNA, and minus 16.7 degree in case of ddNA, while 7 degree in case of zDNA. The axial rise, the height is 2.56 angstrom in case of aDNA, 3.37 angstrom in case of bDNA, and 3.32 angstrom in case of cDNA, 3.03 angstrom in case of ddNA, 3.7 angstrom in case of zDNA. The helical diameter also differs in all the types of DNA. In case of aDNA, the helical diameter will be 23 angstrom. In case of bDNA, it will be 19 angstrom. In cDNA also it's 19 angstrom. In ddNA, it's not fixed. And in zDNA, it will be 18 angstrom. While the first four of them are in right-handed helix manner, so the last one, zDNA, is having the left-handed helix. Now we move on to packaging of DNA. How does the packaging of DNA occurs in case of prokaryotes and in case of eukaryotes? We'll first talk about prokaryotes. Prokaryotes do not have definite nucleus. So the DNA is not scattered throughout the cell. It is held together with some proteins in a region called nucleoid. The DNA in nucleoid is organized in large loops held by proteins. Now we move on to packaging of DNA in eukaryotes. In eukaryotes, DNA is stabilized with positively charged basic protein called histones. Histones are positively charged due to rich in basic amino acids like lysine and arginines. Histones are organized to form a large unit of 8 molecules called histone octamer. So this is the histone octamer consisting of small units of protein known as histones, which are positively charged. While we can see that the negatively charged DNA is wrapped around the histone octamer. So the negatively charged DNA is wrapped around the positively charged histone octamer to form a structure called nucleosome. Nucleosomes are seen as beads on string structure under electron microscope. Nucleosome forms a repeating unit of a structure in the nucleus called chromatin. These nucleosomes, millions of nucleosomes together form a structure which is known as chromatin. So here you can see that all the nucleosomes together form a coiled structure known as chromatin. Chromatin is packed to form chromatin fibers. These are further coiled and condensed at a metaphase to form chromosome. So this chromatin is changed into chromosome during the metaphase. Now we move on to what is euchromatin, what is heterochromatin. So euchromatin in the nucleus is some loosely coiled region of chromatin. So the loosely coiled region of chromatin, which looks lightly stained, is called euchromatin, while densely packed region of chromatin, which is stained darkly, is known as heterochromatin. Euchromatin is transcriptionally active than heterochromatin. Now we move on to the transforming principle. So, Frederick Griffith conducted certain experiments to show the transforming principle in bacteria. So he conducted the experiment on mice and pneumonia bacteria, Streptococcus pneumonia. These bacteria are found in two strains. Streptococcus pneumonia is found in two strains. Strain 1, the smooth strain, and strain 2, the non-virulent one, is having rough strain. So the smooth strain is the virulent one and the non-virulent one is rough strain. So the S strain, which is depicting the smooth strain bacteria, produces the capsule and is pathogenic, while the R strain, which is the rough strain, lacks capsule and is non-pathogenic. This diagram depicts the entire experiment. So what Frederick Griffith has done, he has injected the mice with the rough strain Streptococcus pneumoniae, which are non-virulent, and he has seen that the mouse still lives. Then he injected the smooth strain Streptococcus pneumoniae into the mouse, and then he saw that the mouse dies as the smooth strain Streptococcus pneumoniae are virulent. Then he has heat killed the smooth strain Streptococcus pneumoniae and again injected it into the mice, and he observed that the mouse lives. Why does this happen? Because due to heat killing, the Streptococcus pneumoniae have become deactivated. So now it has not affected the mouse in any way and the mouse lives. Now he has taken the rough strain, which is non-virulent one, and the heat killed smooth strain, both of them, and again it has been injected into the mice, and then he observed that the mouse dies. Why does this happen? So he concluded that this happens because certain transformation has been brought about by combination of rough strain with heat killed smooth strain. When both were added, certain transformation has been brought to the rough strain on addition of heat killed smooth strain. So he saw that R strains are injected into mouse, the mouse continues to live. S strain injected, it causes mouse to die. Heat killed S strain injected, mouse lives. When heat killed and R strain injected, the mouse dies. And hence he concluded that the R strain bacteria has been transformed by heat killed S strain bacteria. So the transformation of R strain to S strain is due to the transfer of genetic material. So the biochemical nature of genetic material was not defined from his experiment, which will be done later on. So this transformation of R strain has been brought by the heat killed S strain bacteria. Now for the biochemical characterization of transforming principle, Oswald Avery, Colin MacLeod and Maclean McCarthy in 1933 to 1944 worked to determine the biochemical nature of transforming principle of Griffith's experiment. They purified the biomolecules, proteins, DNA and RNA from the heat-killed S strain. They added the digestive enzymes to each to see which one could transform live R cells to S cells. So, he has performed the experiment, and let us see what he has done. He has taken the heat-killed S strain and the live R strain, and he added the enzyme protease to it. Then he saw that it transforms the R strain to S strain. Then again he took the heat-killed S strain and the live R strain bacteria and he added the enzyme RNase. Then he saw that it transforms the R strain bacteria to S strain. Again he took the heat-killed S strain and the live R strain and added the enzyme DNase. Then he saw that it was unable to transform the R strain to S strain. Why this has happened? Why this transformation has not taken place? Because now we'll be talking about it, because the protein of heat kill S strain is not the genetic material. RNA of heat killed S strain is not the genetic material, but the DNA of heat killed S strain is the genetic material. Because the DNA digested with DNase enzyme is mixed with RNA strain was unable to transform the R strain to S strain, as this DNA has been digested by DNase enzyme. So hence we concluded that no transformation has taken in this third case, because the DNA has been digested by DNase enzyme, which was responsible for bringing about the transformation. Thank you.